Welcome. We are here to play Allura by Alicia Furness. And it is a rooted in trophy game, playing with Trophy Dark rules. And we're going to go ahead and introduce our players. Some of them might not have played with each other before. So name, pronouns, experience with Trophy as a system, and what you're excited for in the game today. Okay, so I'm start. I'm Madelancholy, Mads for short, she, they pronouns. I played and run a lot of Trophy. Really love it. Really love the system, and I'm excited to see this as a one shot. Normally, I love playing Trophy Dark as a two shot, but I'm getting ready for an in-person convention game, so I'm gonna see if I can keep pace, keep my timing. All right, so I'm gonna try this out yet again. Let me popcorn it over to Donogh.
Hey everyone, my name is Donogh. My pronouns are he, him. Um, my experience with Trophy is I have run a few rooted in Trophy games, but never Trophy Dark, or as a player, in fact. But that's just my life as a gamer. Yeah. Do you want us to do character intros, Matt?
Not just yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Let, yeah, just the player intros.
Yep.
Let's go over to David.
Hi, folks. I am David S. He, him pronouns. I have played 3 incursions of Trophy Dark before this one. Never run it, but I've played it a few times, and I've always had a wonderful time when I play it. So looking forward to this one.
Awesome. Last but not least, Jazy.
Yeah, I'm Jazy, pronoun she, her. I have played a few incursions. I haven't run it. I've read it, and I'm planning to run it. But I'm also doing, the procrastination game where we're like, yeah, someday. But I really do like playing it. I think I've played this particular incursion before. So I am super excited to see how different it will be this time, because I think that's the great thing about Trophy Dark. It's just a completely different story each time, even if it's like the same setup. So I'm super excited for that.
Yeah. So I'm going to be excited to see like what you all make of this particular incursion, because this is not set in the usual trophy world of Caldor, but this is out in space in a future that we will find out about in a few minutes. Let me just check over everybody's stuff. I mean, like I did build in some time for character generation, so I'm gonna do a quick pause of the video and then like allow people to finish up their details before we come back and introduce the characters proper, and then start the game. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and pause. And we're back, and we're going to introduce the characters before we start the game proper. Give me a second. Just want to make sure I'm on the right page here. Okay. So we'll start from left to right on the character keeper. So David, please introduce us to Jet, please.
Yes, hello. I am going to be playing as Jet Blackburn. He is a disgraced self-help author and currently occupied as a medic. As far as his drive is concerned, he is attempting to discover a new species, and he has 2 rituals, one called Total Recall, which allows him to recall long-forgotten lore, and a second called Build It, which allows him to create a functional device from discarded bits. And then I'm skilled in anatomy, apothecary, and deception.
All right. And Jazy, please introduce us to Celeste.
So I'll be playing Celeste, pronouns they and she. They are currently a biologist, but they used to be a sports star. And her drive is to prove the worth of her backwater colony, because I think like she kind of broke out as a sports star, and then something happened that we'll have to find out. But something dramatic happened, and I think she's kind of still fighting to kind of get that recognition and make sure that people respect her colony. She has the ritual hive mind, which means that she can compel someone to act. And they also have a personal favorite, push the button, which means that I can instinctually operate a device. Picture in progress, but just assume they're hot. Just assume they're like super hot.
Thank you. And Donogh, please introduce us to Aryk.
Yeah, Aryk, pronouns he, him, is a mercenary, and the background I chose is disguised android. Presumably that means just a normal mercenary, right? Um, his drive is to tap into the cosmic memories to communicate with his dead sibling, presumably one of his batch of androids. Um, the rituals I picked were robotic intuition, which handily enough allows me to fix or disable an android, and hacking, which allows me to retrieve information from an electronic device. The skills that go with those occupations and backgrounds are weapons, intimidation, and mimicry. I don't know how far I can push that one.
Again, you parlay me and then, just convince me that that is, what you can use. So, yeah, Trophy Dark doesn't have uh, stats per se. I mean, it's going to be a matter of taking risks when you do something significant to change what's going to happen. And we will be using mostly risk roll for doing playing the game for the mechanics. And other mechanics will come up as we go along in the game. But one important thing to realize is that there is the idea of ruin in this game. And they start off with 1 point of ruin. And for each ritual that they have, they add another point of ruin each. And then, yes. So once they reach ruin 6, then they are lost to the environment in this world of Trophy. All right. So that's something that we'll be taking a look at as we go along and play the game. I'm going to make an introduction to this world that we'll be playing in. Generally, Trophy starts with a poem, but for Allura, it starts off with a rather cinematic type introduction, which I will read off now. The year is 3173, adrift among the stars since the ecological destruction of Earth 500 years ago. Humanity has carved out an existence on a group of spaceships and space stations, drifting aimlessly through the vast dangers of space. Life on the cobbled-together fleet is tough, so you signed up for the rescue corps after the third ship went dark. The Council of Colonies begged people to volunteer. They needed people to investigate, to stop the spread between the ships. You had no experience. You were just a civilian after all. But they promised to provide basic training. Now you've been called to your first mission. The Council's premier battleship, the Allura, has ceased all communication and gone dark. The Council fears the worst. You and your new teammates must get in, disconnect the Allura from the network, and see if you can find the cause before it spreads further through the colonies. No other mission has returned successfully. What darkness awaits you on the decks of the Allura? With that, we begin with Ring 1. You make the approach, and you see the big hulk of the Allura as it looms ahead of you in space, however a distance away, and you need to make the approach to get on board. Perhaps one of you is hailing the ship just to see if there's anyone that will answer. But of course, as was reported, it is dark. Let's do an establishing scene as we enter into Ring 1 and you approach the ship and glide into the bay. What are each of you doing to prepare for landing inside this premier battleship? Perhaps what you look like as you make your actions, make your preparations.
I am gonna say that I'm putting on some kind of not really power armor, but some kind of suit that can survive vacuum uh environments. So, something with kind of a full helmet with a visor, and supplemental oxygen, that kind of thing. So I'm kind of in my quarters. The suit is hung up sort of on the wall, and I'm just going through with some kind of laser device, just making sure that everything is installed and working, and all the electronics are functioning, and the sensors are working, that kind of thing.
Think we go from that to a different room, where we see a warm red light indicating like some kind of heating system is beaming down on the table. And we see Celeste is standing over a table full of like plant specimens, and she's humming a gentle soft song. She's wearing like a goggle type over her head, high ponytail, almost like a doctor's lab coat, but spacey as she is singing to her plants, and she's dropping something on them. And then she just says very gently, as she notices, or there's like a beep to kind of signify that we have arrived. And she just says very gently, "But don't you worry, I'll be right back for you. It's just a little detour, I'm sure." And we kind of see her swish away as these plants, this both green and red room, is giving a light on her as she gets ready.
I think you see Aryk standing already in the envirosuit that matches Jet's from before, looking too comfortable in it, like he spent all of his existence in it. Waiting, I guess, on the gantry where we exit, and just waiting for those other doors to open for the rest of the team.
You all have your suits on. You make your way down the plank to the inner bay doors. Disturbingly, the entry bay is open, so no one is able to be hailed, and you don't hear anything. It is dark. Maybe there's emergency lighting on this bay as you glide in and you land. You just see a console on the far wall next to the double doors leading into the rest of the ship, you imagine, and it is blinking. It just seems to have a constant signal or code that slowly moves its way across the screen, and it just blinks. Password denied. Password denied. Password denied. What do you do? You have the bay doors leading into the rest of the ship, but you do see the console that will allow you to shut this bay from the rest of space before you go into the ship.
I mean, I'm gonna walk up to it, examine the console, and wonder why it's not closing, why it hasn't closed before. Do I press the red button, or do I have to run a bypass?
Do you say that out loud and to your companions, or are you thinking?
Um, yeah, I guess I think I'll say that over the radio or channel as I examine it.
do you imagine that there's like, it's comms between your suits that you have to turn on, or is it like just automatic unless you decide to turn it off?
I think that's probably personal preference,
Hmm.
but I think by and large it'll be like voice activated.
Hmm.
That's the default, maybe.
Okay. Okay. So you hear him say this. Does anyone else want to volunteer and go ahead, or do you let him do it?
I'll offer. I mean, I don't have any issues with going ahead and giving it a shot unless you really feel strongly about it.
Mm.
I
Okay.
mean, I
think
don't feel
Celeste
strongly
is
about it.
just
I guess I'm standing there looking at it. So if it's just a question of being there and doing it, I'll go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, you can push the buttons, where you would imagine that the panels the double doors are supposed to, or I should say the bay doors are supposed to close against space. Um, your grav boots would keep you secured on the deck for this spaceship, but again, you are still exposed to the elements of space. I imagine that the bay doors to the outside to the space will close, but then nothing moves in those double doors leading to the rest of the ship. The constant blinking of password denied, password denied, password denied still goes across the screen.
I mean, if I can retrieve or bypass that password, I guess I'll do it. I did take that hack ritual, right, for a reason.
Okay, so you're going to be using your ritual then.
Yeah. How
Alrighty.
wise is this?
Well, what that does when you use a ritual, it incurs automatically a risk roll, and Trophy builds the dice pool. So, when attempting a risky task, declare what you hope will happen and ask the GM and other players what could go wrong. So, in interest of time, just to make sure that we're staying on task, I'm going to ask one person to say, what do we think could go wrong when he tries to hack into the system? I'm gonna ask Jet.
Could it create some kind of power issue that puts the rest of the ship into darkness if it isn't already?
Okay. All right. Now, we're going to start by building the pool. So take one light die if your background or occupation has given you any number of skills that can assist you.
I don't think so.
Okay. Alrighty. Whoop. Lost track of it. Okay. And then, so you don't get that die, but you will get a dark die for automatically for using a ritual. So that's one dark die to start. You get a light die to increase your odds of success by accepting a devil's bargain. So I'm going to open this up to everyone else, including myself, for devil's bargains because I love to hear these. um, so what do we? Okay, so devil's bargains are the light die that he can get, but they are always prefaced by no matter what. So no matter how you roll, this is going to happen. And you will get this light die if you accept one of these devil's bargains. So what do we want to say? No matter what. When he does or does not successfully hack into the system, what will happen? An obvious one would be that he sets off an alarm.
Sure.
Any?
We could be locked in.
Okay.
Well, that would hardly be no matter what, because if unless you mean locked into the ship.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like we can't go back. Yeah. I think no matter what, as you are hacking, whether you do it successfully or not, there will be something else fighting you. Like something is trying to basically counter hack your hack, signifying that someone or something is here, no matter what.
Okay. I kind of like they know we're here. If that
Okay.
sounds fair.
Sounds fair. So you can go roll. Excuse me. Going to the trophy dice roller, you would go under risk, and you would hit 1 light, 1 dark, please.
Okay.
All right. Rolled a 6 dark. If this is higher than your ruin, which it is, your ruin goes up by 1. Congrats. But this does mean with a 6 that you succeed. Okay. So tell me what this looks like with you hacking into the system and getting through the doors.
I mean, I think initially, maybe in the briefing manual, we know what the password should be,
Mhm.
and I just tap that in, but it blares at me. We can't hear, but we can feel it through our feet. Access denied. And then I pull out this kind of, from my wrist panel, I pull out this cord to run a bypass, and I clip it in. And normally, I think this would be hooked into a wristpad that is the computer, right? But for me, this is just a sham. It's actually hooking into my brain directly. So maybe like this thing knows I'm here. Not just that we're here, that I'm here. And it, the tone in this chamber switches from this red to a green, and it just, swishes open the door on the other side of the airlock and welcomes us in.
Yep. Yeah, it almost it's surprising to everyone else, I would imagine, but not you. And the panel slides open, and I think, and again, science, I know, but just assume that science says that you can still hear stuff happening, and maybe when the door slides open, even though it's dimly lit to complete darkness, you hear banging from down this hallway that has opened up to you.
Oh, so much for advanced technology. And she kind of gives this thing like a disdainful look because it's already backfiring and it's supposed to be so fancy. And she's not impressed. And they just start walking forwards now that the door is open for us.
So Celeste just goes on ahead.
Yeah, she is here to do a mission.
I'm going to say, as you step into this hallway, first step over that threshold of the double doors, immediately a red light chunks on from a distant corner, beyond from where the sound was heard. And from this red light is emitting like a distant voice. It sounds like it's on a tannoy, and it says, "Palo activated. Passive artificial listening object on."
Passive artificial listening device. Did I hear that right?
Object.
Object.
Listening object.
Listening
Follow.
object.
I assume that was not in our training that we heard of this, or did we? Do we know what that's supposed to be?
Hmm.
You have not heard it
Well,
before.
do we have reason to believe that there is intelligence on this ship, either biological or artificial?
I would assume because I'm here that we think that there's something of a biological nature going on, right? I'm imagining like that's why they put the team together.
That's reasonable. Well, then I'm looking for a new species, so that fits with my drive.
Mhm.
Um,
Are your companions cognizant of this drive of yours?
of mine, the desire to find a new species.
Uh-huh.
I see no reason why not. I mean,
Okay.
my background is probably the thing I would be keeping secret. Um, but simply portraying myself as someone with medical training who is interested in discovering um, new life forms, that's, lots of people want that.
We have probably bonded over that, right? Because I'm a biologist and you're like a medic, which is sort of somewhat in the same area.
Yeah, they have similar academic backgrounds, certainly. So I guess all this is to say that I'm going to just say to everyone, I don't know if this system has the means to eavesdrop on us, but be aware that we might be being observed if that listening object is online.
You think that is what they are using the auxiliary power for? Seems unreasonable.
Now, what do you think?
I think that we should make no assumptions either way. I am not saying your hypothesis is incorrect. I am simply saying that as of now, we have no information to act on.
Well, I'll err on the side of caution.
How about we look for survivors? Because, you know, you're a medic, Jet, so let's hope you get something to do.
Well, let's hope I don't.
I
Celeste
think
just
as
smiles, having probably heard this kind of conversation a lot.
I think as as Jet says that, I think you hear another disturbance coming from down the hall before the red light that you see in the hallway, um, like where it was coming from before.
Um, I think it's obvious when Aryk raises his weapon that it's always been out until now. You just haven't seen it in shot. It's just like slowly comes into frame.
Sure.
Um, you still want to go first, Celeste, or is this where I come in?
Oh, feel free to act on your area and expertise, and I shall act on mine.
Sounds fair.
Following the sound leads you down to um, this hallway is full of sets of doors, and this leads you down to one specific door that, like some of the other ones, have their door monitor just blinking blankly, but the light is dimming or intermittently blinking. And then you hear the sound again. Not as obvious, but it's a little stealthier now. I would imagine the grav boots aren't necessarily very quiet. Clink clunk, exactly. What do you do?
You're muted.
Thank you. I'm gonna stand next to the door and maybe cock my head like where I'm asking without being overcome. So, like, what do you think that is?
It sounds like somebody trying to be quiet.
I guess we open the door. Yeah.
Yeah.
You open the door, or you enter in like whatever codes that you know to open up the basic doors, and I imagine that Aryk is out in front with the gun. Yeah, out of the shadows, you are greeted with like a hand holding a similar weapon, not as big, but handheld. And out from the shadows, you don't see a face or a suit, but you do hear, "I don't know who you are. You're going to get your head blasted off."
How about we lower our weapons and you accept gracefully the rescue party's attempt to help you?
How do I know that you're a rescue party? You could just as easily be a bunch of androids.
Do we look like androids? I would have shot first if I was an android.
The red light is streaming down the hallway from this device, and you see coming out of the shadows, like, the hand holding the pistol is getting shaky, but then out from the shadows comes this figure looking very emaciated in their suit, like hair like in their face, can't quite tell. But one baleful eye is glaring at you from inside the helmet, Aryk, and says, "I don't know you. I'm not gonna put down this gun. Not at all. You put your gun down if you're a rescue party."
Hey, Jet.
Yeah.
Hey, crazy guy in the corner. Jet is our medic. I'm going to leave you two alone. If I hear something that sounds like a scuffle, I'll be going by shooting first, asking questions later. So I'll just turn my back on him and step back outside.
So am I in the room with the door closed with this guy now?
You don't
I
have
think
to
I'm
be.
closing the door.
Right.
But you're like leaving, okay, the
Yeah.
room. Okay, listen, I say to him. I don't know what has happened here, or why your ship has gone dark. We're part of a rescue party. We're planning on getting you out of here. Now I recommend you come with us. I'm not going to make you though, but at the very least, I'd like to check you out and make sure you're okay. Would that be all right? I'm not even armed right now, ma'am. You don't need to be afraid of me, okay? And I'm kind of like holding my hands up and like turning to motion to my armor. I don't have any weapons on. I'm just here.
You probably even have like, the universal medic sign on your suit somewheres.
Yeah, it's on like an arm band or some
Yeah.
plate on my bicep, something like
Sure.
that. But I'm just trying to use my bedside manner.
Right. And I think that, the gun starts going like, even further out, like towards your face. But before he looks like he's about ready to shoot and like his eyes are growing wider and wider and wider listening to you, he just drops. Like slides to the floor, unconscious.
I will advance.
Yeah.
And see if I can assess what the heck is up with him.
Yeah. Gun slides to the floor. He is, yeah, like supine.
Yeah, I'll call for Aryk and Celeste, and I will kick the gun kind of back towards where my team would be.
Yep.
Celeste
And
gives him a disdainful look. Says, Well, what a shame. He could have told us something interesting. And then she takes from like a utility belt like a bunch of little vials and a scalpel, and like tweezers to collect tissue samples. And like he is plant matter, I am going to collect some tissue samples and run some tests on him. Not medical tests, but interesting tests.
Um, he is wearing a suit like the rest of you. So not sure if you were planning on removing any, like
I
moving the
just give
helmet or
Aryk like one single look, like
Sure what that means.
as in like she wants you to remove it for her
Okay.
because you probably know like how the armor goes on and stuff.
Okay. So, Mads, have we established that we have atmosphere in here because we can hear?
yeah. I mean, like like if you can make that assumption because like you actually heard sound, then
Okay.
yes, then
So
like
we'll
there's some
we'll
kind of atmosphere.
yeah. So we'll close this cabin door
Mhm.
just to be safe, and then
Yeah.
yeah, I will like take off a glove and a vambrace of this
Mhm.
envirosuit just to something that Celeste can take a sample out of without completely compromising his intactness.
Right.
Well, it's good you care because she doesn't.
I think as Jet, you're running the scans, and Celeste is taking samples. I think one of you will notice, like the hair is like finally out of his face. It's like really long, and he's just really, really skinny and again emaciated. Who knows how long he's been here? But I think Jet, from your scans, I think you can tell he's been without um, sustenance and possibly liquid for some time, just barely surviving. Like all of his vitals are low. Um, but one of you recognizes him. Who is this person? And what connection do they represent to your old life?
Hmm. I mean, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say they could have been someone from my colony, um, and maybe it's like very clear now that we're like seeing the like the clothes that this person is wearing. We heard the accent and everything, and it's like becoming very clear to us that this was like the lowest ranked person
Mhm.
on this ship, right?
Yeah.
And sort of like that disrespect that Celeste is immediately like, oh, it's because they were from that place that they weren't given a better like they're basically like the janitors, right? They're
Yeah.
like the cleaning crew or something. It's just like a very low respected job. And I think maybe as I am taking these samples, um, or like you're taking your scans, it scans for like positive for like a very particular, like fairly harmless, but like a very particular sort of parasite, maybe that's like only found on this particular colony. And it's like something, that we breathe in, it gets in our lungs, in our blood, and it doesn't really do any harm, but it shows up on medical scans because of a particular quality that it has. But if someone else has an idea, I'm also fine with that.
The name that's emblazoned on this suit is Wayland.
Wayland. Okay.
And Aryk, I think you're gonna recognize, like when you see the gun that the person had, you're gonna recognize it as like this couldn't possibly be his gun. He had to have gotten it from somebody else because he wouldn't have had that kind of clearance to be able to hold it, hold a
Sure, yeah.
firearm.
Um, I mean, that gun has disappeared into my utility belt right
Mm.
now. But yeah, I think with all the attention that he's getting, I'll kind of look over my shoulder at him and go, "You know who he is?"
Well, my colony was not particularly large. I know who everyone is to some extent. It does not surprise me he ended up here like this. He could have been much if he'd been born on the right planet, but he wasn't, so here he is.
Do you think he was a fan of yours, Celeste?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think like it was like a really big thing on that colony on that planet to have like the one person that's kind of made it to the big league. But I think also, sort of on the flip side of that, I think when I retired for whatever reason, I think when I retired, there was enormous venomous backlash to that because a lot of people felt, like that I failed them. And it was like very personal for them, like you were the one that was going to make it and then you didn't. And you also let us down. And I think there was, over whatever version of social media, etc., that we have in this verse or however we communicate, it was rough. And I think like maybe she doesn't know if this person like in particularly led it, but she does know, that in her colony basically now doesn't like her very much because they think that they've been let down by her.
Okay. Jet, I think as you're making your scans and like seeing how how bad of a condition this guy is in, but still somehow alive after all
Hmm.
its time, his eyes flutter open, and I think you're close. You're close to be able to read the scans. And he just looks up into your eyes and he mouths something that is just barely audible and says, "The truth. The truth. Found on the bridge."
Hmm.
And then he goes unconscious again.
Hmm. I mean, I'll assess for his vital stability, make sure he's not going to die or anything like that. But assuming his vitals are okay, um,
I mean,
then
they're very baseline. So I mean, like just
yeah,
he's kind of just hanging on there.
yeah,
Um, Assume that there is like an infirmary of sorts on this ship if you do want to make an effort, but that is your choice. I'm just making a mention of it.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, I'll make an effort at least. Can if it's nearby enough that we can get him to some kind of
sure.
medically stable place, then great. But otherwise, I'm not going to bring up what he said to the team, but I am going to say something along the lines of, are there any data or records stored in the bridge or on the bridge?
I mean, I would have expected mostly everything, but yeah. Um, but like Celeste said, if we can get this guy up and running again, maybe he can tell us what really happened. Data is one thing, but eyewitness testimony or something might be more
Yeah.
important.
Okay. So, is the plan to bring Waylon to this infirmary? I think assume that your wrist pads would be able to give you some holographic maps. You were given some rudimentary information about this ship, including like some holographic maps that you can load. So assume that, if you're looking for it, then you will be able to find it and it springs up and the infirmary is just only like maybe a deck or two away.
And for context, how far away is the bridge?
It is in the center of the ship.
Because these people are smart.
Yeah.
um, So yeah, maybe let's do the infirmary, see how we go, and then follow on to the bridge.
Yep. So as you are making your plans to transport Wayland, I'm going to ask each of you to close out the ring by telling me, what do you think? What does your character think happened on the ship? And how do you expect to be received by the council when you emerge with the answer or answers? What does Aryk think happened on the ship?
I mean, maybe there's some problem with the power or radiation or something that would explain how a crew is non-responsive. Um, I mean, the story goes the council really wants to know what's going on, but one of their buddies was in charge of this, so there's going to be some kind of cover-up, right? That's the way these things go. Protect your interest groups first.
What does Jet think happened?
At this point, I am torn between some kind of catastrophic mechanical failure, something that mess with life support and maybe mess with people's brains, some kind of gas poisoning, something like that, or sabotage. But I don't know which.
How do you expect to be received by the council when you emerge with one of those answers?
Probably warmly. I have no reason to believe that they would be intimidated by our findings. We're just doing our jobs.
And how does Celeste think? What does Celeste think happened here?
Celeste thinks, given that the only person we have found here was very lowly ranked and in possession of a gun they should not be able to possess, that people had enough of being treated badly and that they rose up and that they made sure that those lording over them were lording no longer. And if that is the case, then the council will never hear of it. They will instead hear of a very tragic, but very freak accident that just killed these people. And she expects that for such a blameless resolution, she will be hailed a hero.
So ends ring 1. We're going to take our first break. 10 minutes. Yeah, 10 minutes. So to me, the 19 mark. And then we will be back to start ring 2. All right. See you in 10. Ring 2. Who or how? Let me ask you first. How are you bringing Wayland to the infirmary? Who's carrying him, or how are you doing it?
Aryk, can you fireman carry him?
Only if I want to look really heroic, but I usually don't recommend it.
Do we think this is like the kind of universe where you have like a design and a Heartlight Gurney comes out? Or is this like a more grounded where we would have to find some object to put him on?
I leave it up to you.
Was the cabin, you said cabin, was that like a sleeping cabin or some other functional area?
It looked like a regular cabin that had different supplies here as well. So, I mean, like storage as well as like, bedding and such.
So maybe there's an opportunity to make a temporary stretcher or something like that, just to get him to the infirmary. It's pretty close.
Just have to go the deck up and over. That's all. But I mean,
we could do that.
Yeah, is it just Aryk, or is it between Aryk and Jet, or what have you?
I mean, I would be assisting. At least I would ask to if I am useful.
I mean, I think it's definitely more in Jet's area of expertise, making a stretcher.
I mean, if you want to make a hover conveyance, I'm perfectly happy to let you guys make a hover conveyance.
I think while they are taking care of Wayland, Celeste has just kind of, like sticking close-ish, but she's not gonna help Gary, this man. They're not very interested in that or helpful. And I think they've kind of going over the ship and just seeing if anything, like her field of expertise. Is there
Mhm.
anything growing here? Is there blood? Is there anything that just looks strange that she can take samples of and investigate?
I'm gonna say, as they're making their makeshift, conveyance, I'm gonna say that you hear what sounds like sparking somewhere distant, somewhere like nearby, but then also far away, maybe on the intercom and such, but you're not quite sure where that's happening. And maybe further along the passage, over by where the light clicked on, Apollo, that device clicked on, maybe you see what looks like bloody footprints, damp footprints, since you can't quite get close enough just yet. But yeah, they lead down that hallway and out through one of the side corridors.
And that is the general direction of the bridge, the infirmary.
Infirmary, from what you can tell from your map.
Interesting. I point this out to Aryk. He is, after all, our protection.
Good people heading towards the infirmary, I guess. Hey, Jet, can you just lift that guy if we're being paranoid right now?
Yeah.
Maybe Celeste can help. and I will just uh, start down the corridor, paying close attention to these wet footprints.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Celeste just raises
yeah.
like a single eyebrow and she says, maybe Celeste can help.
I mean, I as a medic probably know how to, drag people around or sort of fireman carry them or whatever you got to do. So I can get him moving if I need to.
So if you go on ahead, Aryk, and then Jet follows behind with like whatever conveyance that you manage, whether it be like a hover dolly or what have you, and then Celeste is also making her way, following. I'm going to say that as you make your way down the hallway, like you see the sparking, you see the intermittent, oop, blinking, and you start seeing further down the corridors and realizing that there's some sort of virus that seems to be infecting the rest of the ship, because the lights down these hallways are blinking wildly, or intermittent beeps and clicks that you hear all over the ship as you make your way to the infirmary. And as this is happening, I'm going to ask each one of you, what is your character's biggest fear? These sights, these sounds, they're reminding you of what your biggest fear is. What is it?
I think Celeste's biggest fear is that everyone is right about her, that she is simply not special and not smart, and that she isn't going to amount to anything. So I think she tries very hard to portray that hyper competent, aloof image of this brilliant scientist, but she's very worried that somebody, if they look too hard and too long at her, they're gonna see she's just a fraud.
But then why prove the worth of that backwater colony that turned on you? You didn't quite make it. Why prove their worth?
Because one person can be discredited and it is easy to forget one person, but if she creates a legacy, if she creates something that is bigger than her, then, well, first of all, wouldn't all these people be so very grateful to her and never forget her name? And second of all, wouldn't that be such a good revenge to everyone who has ever denied her?
Nice. What does Jet fear? What does Jet fear the most? What caused that disgrace?
Well, I mean, what caused the disgrace was it came to light that I was misrepresenting my credentials. I was presenting myself as a doctor when really I'm a guy who got some medical training in the Corps. So as far as I'm concerned, the worst has already happened. I guess the most immediate thing that I'm worried about is that there is still something or someone on this ship that has us in immediate danger, and that we're not a cleanup crew. That actually this is an ongoing crisis that we just found ourselves stuck in.
And Aryk, what cosmic memory do you remember the most to communicate with this sibling? Clone? What exactly? What exactly do you see and hear in your memory circuits?
I mean, this patternless beeping reminds me of what would happen to substandard models when they were being wiped early on in their developmental process. Just this nonsense flooding the channels, obliterating who they were. And I hope I can get to my sibling before this virus obliterates every memory of her. But of course, the thing that really irks me is that this lowly janitor from the most hated colony in human space still thinks that an android is below him in the pecking order.
So, I think as you make your way down these hallways and then realize, again, there's like some sparking coming from like one deck, and then maybe there's like blinking from another, and then an alarm ringing even further in the distance. You enter the hallways towards the infirmary, and then you realize that if you've ever seen like cruise lines that have like the stacked decks, I mean, it's immense. You get the sense of you can go down and there's decks below you. You can look up and there's decks above you, and then you just see into the wide open space of this one hallway, and then see everything that's here. And possibly not enough, because there are darkened hallways. There are darkened decks here on the Allura, and you all don't know why. So yes, the patternless beeping increases as you go down this hall, and then you are trying to get to the infirmary and check on Wayland. You pass by the vision of the decks, just separated by banisters, and possibly the clear poly material that allows you to, again, like have walls of a sense here. But then you go into deeper and down the hallway, and then it's rows and rows of doors and corridors. You can follow your holograms all you want, but I think for Celeste, as you're thinking about your colony, I think you will see sparking down one corridor that you pass, Aryk, as you're heading and following these footprints that are looking like they're spread more now, as if they've started to run. You realize that as you pass them, they're disappearing. These footprints are no longer seen. And Jet, you are intent upon making sure that your conveyance, or, carrying Wayland, won't be a strain for you. But you hear down some of the other corridors, or maybe behind some of the doors you pass, as if they're trying to tell you something, but you can't understand what they're trying to say.
Okay.
And I'm going to say that, Aryk, you're following the footsteps, yes? You're in front? And then Jet? And then Celeste? Would you say that that's about right for the order?
No.
Yeah,
Celeste,
that works for me.
Celeste, I'm going to say that, let me ask you, are you following the holographic map, or are you following Jet's back and him carrying Wayland?
I think actually I'm following the footsteps, and I have probably pulled out like some kind of device, like some kind of high-tech scanning device, to actually test if this is human blood or whatever this liquid is.
Okay. Is this a device you've used before?
It's probably like a device that I know how it works, so I'm not sure if I don't think that the ritual would work, but I think it may still be a risk roll, depending on what I may find.
Yeah.
And also, given that you said there's a virus here, it could very well infect my devices.
Right. Exactly. So go ahead and do a risk roll for me, please. Let's build the roll. But before I do, Aryk, what do we think can go wrong if she fails in activating this properly?
Well, you've already described how this liquid is disappearing,
Mhm.
so it's so maybe it's like a not really from some kind of liquid that's coming from something. Maybe it's just a projection. But maybe if something goes wrong here, it could be that this thing hijacks the device, pushes its consciousness inside it and feeds wrong information, or who knows.
Okay. All right, let's build the roll. uh, occupation or background that plugs us in for your
Yeah,
skills?
I think my xenozoology, I assume that this is a device that's, used to scan such things.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So you get 1 light die for that. Risk roll. Did you say you were going to use a ritual or no?
I don't think so, because the one push the button instinctually operated device,
Hmm.
I think it makes sense for her occupation to be used to have a lot of equipment, right? So I don't think that this is
Okay.
quite that.
But I will say it's going to be a risk to your mind if something that you discover in this scan is not what you expected. Um,
For sure.
for sure. Okay.
I was
And so 1 light, 1 dark. But then for the second light die to increase your odds, let's add a devil's bargain. So again, opening this up to everyone, no matter what, regardless of how she rolls. They're disappearing. I'm going to say no matter what, they're disappearing for Aryk and you. Jet's probably too busy to notice. But I
Mhm.
think they're disappearing because they are some sort of strange nanotechnology that will
Hmm.
get into your machine and wreck it, giving you some interesting information or incorrect information.
Mhm.
Any other devil's bargains?
I think that you will find some connection between whatever substance this is and whatever affects your colony's kind of this parasite or this thing that you described in infecting you or inhabiting you.
Ooh, I like that.
Jet, any DBs?
Nothing else on my end, no.
Okay, so you have the choice between the two.
Yeah, I will take no matter what, I'll discover that this parasite from my colony is interacting with whatever the hell is going on here.
Excellent. All right, so 2 light, 1 dark for the risk roll, please. Let's see what you get.
3 and dark 5, which is higher than my current rune.
All right, and I forgot to ask uh, Aryk about how it affected him to get closer to ruin, but I will ask you, um, how do you feel closer to the darkness here as your ruin goes up by 1?
Um, I will leave it to you to describe like how exactly I might be affected, or we can, drag that out. But I think like as I am reading these scans and I'm going over it, and we see, like very professional stoic look, she's flipping through some data. And then there's almost like a stutter in her move, almost imperceptible, like the briefest of seconds. That if you are not very focused on her, you would have never noticed. But she stutters for just a second as she reads these results, and she realizes that she's breathing in, or that she is in a place that is going to affect her and change her. And we see her like immediately click on some device, and like there's like a mask that goes on, like a breather. Um and yeah, I think knowing that something here has been affecting her people and is going to affect her simply because she was born somewhere and she had no choice over that, and she has always hated that place as much as everyone else hated it, but it feels just so unfair. And I think that's sort of what's going through her mind, even as outwardly, except for, the sudden mask appearing around her face, she's not really showing much.
And I'm going to say that I'm going to say that when you see that your parasite is responding to being scanned, it's almost like the readings are exactly the same. Like maybe you accidentally make the pass of your device over your arm at the same time that you try to analyze these footprints, this gel, this liquid, and you realize it's blinking the same scale, the same levels, the same everything. And it's almost like those footprints are gleaming before they disappear, and you notice your arm is doing the same thing. Or you feel heat where it's responding to sameness. And Aryk, up in front, you're also following these footprints, but they start to fade as if they're moving. They're moving somehow. But you see the next one and then you go to it before it starts to fade. And you're so intent upon these footprints that I think you start to ignore the map leading to the infirmary, and you hear a choo behind you. When you turn around, there's a solid wall there.
And I was about to say, "Hey, keep up." And I'll go through the comms. Jet, can you hear me?
Yeah, I read you. What's going on?
Okay, you're following me, right?
You look up from the conveyance and you realize that Aryk is no longer there.
That's a negative, Aryk. Where in the world are you?
But you were following me, right?
Um, well, I thought I was, yeah. Where did you get off to?
I'm following the footsteps. Uh, yeah, let me check the holo map, see where I'm at.
I was gonna say I'm gonna be comparing my position to his on my end, and probably come to the conclusion that those footsteps are not coming from either of us.
Nope. I mean, if you try to look at your purported position, I think you're on the way to the infirmary, Jet, with Wayland. And I think you notice that you are down a different corridor as well. Celeste is no longer behind you.
Okay.
And Aryk,
you're still with Celeste, right?
I'm looking around. That's a negative too, Aryk. Where the hell are you people?
Yeah, where does my holo map suggest I am?
You are down a particular hallway that looks like it's coming away from the infirmary, and it's actually down what looks like a security hallway. There's like different booths that happen intermittently here, like as if this is like the brig. Like
Okay.
maybe there's
Yeah. I think I have. Well, I think I'm in security, but it's not quite that we just separated. I just turned around to see where you were, and there was a clank and then like a bulkhead right in front of me. like right behind, right where I walked through a moment ago. So, um, Celeste, where are you at?
I have a question. Reduction rolls are when you hit 5, right? Not when you hit 4?
Correct.
Okay. Dang it. Dang it.
Right.
Well, that is a good question. Where am I?
You look up from your device and realize it's like you don't see Jet or Aryk, and there's a different hallway in front of you, as if they weren't there in the first place. And the bloody footsteps are leading down that way.
I am unsure, but I have a visual on the footsteps. Do you?
For now, how about we ignore the footsteps and go via the map to the infirmary?
If something is here, should we not investigate?
Sure, but not on our lonesome, because that's how people get killed.
Very well. I shall make my way back to
The infirmary. We're going to meet up in the infirmary.
Okay.
Roger that.
So I'm gonna say, I'm sorry. Jet, I think you find yourself soon by the infirmary, the double doors, and then the call code on top indicate that this is where they come for, treating folks. And yeah, you're a medic, so you would have a code to get inside. That is not a problem.
Right.
You see, like very sterile environment, of course. Simple metallic beds or examining tables with the capacity by their headboard to have like laser tools. Like they look like just like handles, but then like depending on how you program the handle, it will pop out different devices via laser. So could be like a scanning device at one point, it could even be a scalpel at another point, whatever. But that's what you see. But then there's a cube, or like they're kind of separated by half walls. And there's a cube further down in this dimly lit place that looks like there's something in it. And as you enter in with Wayland, a light clinks on in the corner. Not by this thing that you see, but it will light it up some. And you hear, Palo activated. Passive, artificial, listening, object, on. It looks like a red eye.
And that is the red eye is inside of this cube you described?
It's in the infirmary.
In the infirmary, okay. Where is it located in the infirmary?
Up on the wall, like above the examining tables.
Okay. And you said that there was some kind of person?
You can barely see from this red light or the emergency lighting that's in here. It looks like there's something in that particular cube.
Okay. Can I flip on like a headlamp or something to get a better look at it?
Sure.
So I'll do that and maybe take a few steps closer just until it comes into focus. What's in there?
Let me ask you something. What do you do with Wayland first?
I mean, I'm still carrying him. I'm trying to
Okay.
find some place to put him down so that I can at least connect him with whatever kinds of life support devices they have. Nothing that's gonna, treat him necessarily, but just to keep him stable.
Yeah. I mean, like, again, the examining tables are there. They're all empty. And then they have the headboards that have, like, digital hookups for, like fluids or, any other kind of readings.
Mm-hmm.
And but again, the far cube has something or someone in it. Very odd.
Right. Well, I mean, I'll put Waylon down, and then like if I can go up to the cube, is there anything in more detail I can ascertain?
Yes. It looks like there's. So imagine the half walls as being like not half, like at somebody's waist, but more like half as in like not a full wall, and they go from ceiling to floor. So you can see like the edge of a table that's in like 45-degree angle, and it looks like something is standing, or like it's on the table, but like it's in that position, like on a recline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, looks, from what you can tell, like if you haven't looked all the way around the corner, it's like it just looks like a pair of bare legs.
Uh, and is this a cube that's used for life-sustaining purposes, or what's the function of it?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like it's the same kind of hookup as the other ones.
Okay. Um, is there any way for me to see who is inside beyond the legs?
You just have to go around the corner,
Yeah, I'll
go
do
around the
that.
wall.
Yeah.
You see the unclothed body of Aryk laying there, eyes
Oh,
closed, just completely supine, but in that recline for the table being in the angle that it's at, as if he was been there all along, just in stasis.
gotcha. Um, I'm going to get on the comms and say, Aryk, do you read me?
Please make a ruin roll.
Oh dear. Okay.
Just
Let's see here. Okay. And this is just one dark, right?
well, it's just the ruin roll. Like we'll just have
J
you
j
roll.
just ruin. Okay.
Yeah, just ruin.
Three. So I do go up to three. Oh no, I stay at three.
Yeah, you stay at
Okay.
3. Tell me how you Tell me how you keep it together as you hear Aryk say. What does Aryk say?
I mean, I think I just, because I'm in the middle of something else, I pause for what seems like a very long moment
Hmm.
before I come on comms. Yeah, I'm here. Jet, what's going on? You found the infirmary?
Yeah, I did. Aryk, there. Can you get out here as soon as possible? There's something here I don't quite get. There's
Yeah, I'm on my way.
yeah, there's a person in one of these life support cubes that um closely resembles you to a pretty extreme extent.
Okay. Well, that is strange.
It's so perfect that Aryk, you have a very distinctive tattoo
Yeah,
that's visible to people like
it is.
normally.
Yeah, I mean, not right now, but like back on the ship on the
Yeah,
way here, or
yeah.
in normal gear. Yeah, it's visible.
What is it?
I think so. The face claim has this neck tattoo that goes up to the chin line, and like from a distance, it looks like a solid block, but when you go in, it looks like it's kind of almost like a double helix. Uh,
And this is very much on this doppelganger of Aryk's on the table. while you're mulling
So
over that, go
yeah.
ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm gonna hang tight until he shows up.
Yeah. I think as you're making your way down this corridor and trying to double back, Aryk, I think you're
Oh,
going.
so despite my instructions and despite my saying I am on my way, I am not on my way. I am checking out these cubes in the
Mhm.
brig very
Yeah.
carefully.
Oh yeah. No, that's fine. I was going to address that as we were thinking about it. Um, yeah, I mean, I think as you're checking out the brig, I mean, like, it's empty cells. Some look that they were occupied, and some don't. And then on frequent intervals, like you'll see what looks like a security booth, like where someone would be like standing guard normally, or like taking their shift in watching over whomever's here. When you enter, it is full of, maybe one or two monitors and what looks like a mounted drive on the wall. But the particular one that you've gone into has something flashing on the screen as if there is something logged into the system. And you can see that there's a drive, a thumb drive of some sort that is hooked into the um, hard drive mounted on the wall. And there seems to be a strange symbol on it, blinking as a cursor or like some kind of indicator on the monitor. Celeste, would you say that the colonies of the council like have different like not heraldry, but like icons to indicate like where they're from or what they are?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'm imagining maybe like some kind of like the Expanse kind of verse where you have sort of different factions, so to speak.
Hmm.
And maybe it's not like, like it's not officially that you have to wear this color or something, but there are very like distinct cultures and distinct like what you would wear and like decorations that you would wear and that kind of stuff.
What's the iconography that your colony uses?
I think um we have like some kind of very very old fashioned like lightning rod type of iconography, and then around it is a sort of vine, like a vine tentacle like thing. And I think we see that as us, growing above everything else, but very mockingly others would say that it means that we are trying to suffocate everything and we are trying to like pull ourselves up by things that don't belong to us.
That's the icon that you see blinking on your screen, Aryk.
So, can I see from the console what's in that thumb drive, or is it kind of inaccessible?
Oh no, you can totally like take a look at it. I think given your given your skills and your your robotic intuition and hack and such, between all of that, I think you're able to figure out that this is the thing that is the source of the virus, the source of the computer virus for the ship. But it did need approval from someone on the bridge in order to execute. You met the lowliest member of the crew, but someone on the bridge is high up enough to execute this code. Who is it? What role did they serve on the ship?
I think head of security, someone who with a foot in both worlds, down here and in the very bowels of the ship.
Yeah. You can see, like, once you start digging a little deeper and then you're trying to check out some code, it looks right, but it has parts of it that look oh so wrong. And that's what's affecting the ship.
I'm gonna ignore it for the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Can I? So you said there's monitors. Are they like looking at the cells or the corridors or something like this?
Yeah, I mean, like, you can scroll through the information on the drive itself, like not the thumb drive, but the
Yeah,
mounted drive itself, and then be able to see all over the ship if you wanted to.
yeah. Maybe if there's like a timestamp on the thumb drive, I'll know exactly the moment to look at the coverage.
Hmm. Is that what you intend on doing?
That is what I am going to do.
Okay. So, occupation or background or skills to be able to do this. This is a risk.
Yeah. Um, I wonder if, since I know who set this off, could I like use their credentials or like put myself in their frame of mind to try to mimic their their steps, or is that? I think that might be a stretch, but I'm just trying to.
Sounds more like a ritual to me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think no skills apply in that case. So just the hacking ritual.
Yep. Or you can, like, parlay it that the background would help you as a disguised android. You can, like,
Um, um, I mean, I guess if it's going in that direction, it could be to um for the occupation. Like I've been on security, I know
hmm
how
yeah,
these things work.
absolutely, for sure. Okay. So you get that light die,
Yep.
risk roll for, yeah, dark die, and the risk roll for hack
Yep.
because you're using a ritual. And then Devil's Bargain. I forgot to ask about, like, what could go wrong.
What could go wrong?
I'm gonna bring it back
Okay.
of like an alarm goes off on the ship, alerting
Mm-hmm.
something or someone that you are where you are. Um, that would be my offering for what could go wrong. So now let's go back to Devil's. You get that second light die. What do we think? No, will happen no matter what.
Think no matter what, something in this program or something about, as you hack into it, um, has like some hint at your sibling. That's you, right? That's your drive. Yeah, that
Yeah.
that your
Yeah.
sibling was involved. Like activated it, had something to do with making this program, whatever, but somehow your sibling was involved here.
Yeah. That sounds delicious to me.
And then I'm gonna build on that with a different Devil's Bargain and say that it is your sibling, but it is tied into being in the network. They are the virus. You find out that they are in the system somehow.
Sorry, is the devil bargain that I find that out, or just that is the case?
You find that out.
Okay. Seems like involved with an extra cherry on top. I mean, maybe I'll just go with involved. You know, without prescribing.
Okay.
Is it fair?
Yeah. So
Okay.
2 light, 1 dark on a risk roll, please. Okay.
Yeah.
6 light. Yay! Ruin does not go up, but you totally succeed. So you are trying to find out exactly what from this, hacking into it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what impact this had initially, like maybe what happened to the crew. Yeah, I guess get a sense of those first moments of the transformation.
Yeah. I'm going to say that is going to lead us into ring 3. So that is the scene that closes us out of ring 2, is you discovering like the light of the monitor as it lights up your face, and your face gets more surprised and possibly shocked as it looks onto the screen. So ring 3, you are looking at this and looking at all the data that starts to come in as you hack your way through, and you realize, oh shit, it has to do with androids. It's always been about androids. Your sibling is involved somehow. You see their designation, their name listed here. But it's still a little bit of gobbledygook, as it's like as you're trying to go through thousands and thousands of bits of code. And as you're processing all of this, and we see this, and then we see Jet looking at Aryk's double, and we see Celeste, looking at her device and realizing the readings are the same. There's something the same about these footprints, the tech, the liquid that she's found. I should ask all of you, what about the rise of androids in your culture? Aryk had said something about it earlier, that the lowest of the low of the humans still considers androids beneath them. When did the humans suspect that the androids were out of control? What techniques do androids use to blend in with the human population?
Man, I'm trying to remember Blade Runner. What did they do in Blade Runner? Because that was the whole movie, is androids blending in with humans.
Touchstones are always appreciated, but you can totally make up your own stuff.
Right.
In the context of your character, how do you think that they notice the rise of androids and suspect? Again, I mean, Jet's looking right at an example, a possible example.
How did I notice the rise of androids? I imagine that when I was serving in the Corps some time ago, and of course, higher ups never told us about any of this, I ran into an increasingly large number of android comrades in my units. No one told me they were androids. I only found out if I ever had to do blood work on them. And interestingly, if this isn't too much of an authorial insertion, maybe a large percentage of them weren't even aware that they were androids either. until someone told them, they had been messing with their memory banks or something like that, essentially telling them, oh, you're human just like the rest of them, said that it would increase unit cohesion.
I think for Celeste's planet, I think they only got slightly malfunctioning androids. Like we weren't rich or respected enough to have like the more advanced versions. So what she knows is mostly what they should have had, but didn't have when they came to her planet. And I think they were things um like emotional responses that would have been programmed into them. But they got essentially what were deemed as malfunctioning androids because their emotional responses weren't deemed correct. And there were, like just physical things. There were eyes that looked very mechanical that weren't properly manufactured. There was skin that was hanging loose or didn't move when they talked. There were just all these defects. And when such a thing happened, or when an android progressed enough that they started to becoming unruly, they were sent to Celeste's colony.
I mean, the so-called rise of androids is really just the increasing paranoia of the colonies against us. Um, every little twitch, every little subpar performance is seen as rebellion. And the stakes are too high for us to permit that.
And I think as your how do you feel about that though, Aryk? Being an android and realizing the resentment that must have been felt by these humans.
Well, there's no accounting for human psychology, you know.
I'm going to ask each of you. Jet, what did Celeste bring on the mission that makes you suspicious?
Um, well, Celeste already brought a bunch of bio testing equipment, right? Um, I would say maybe can we say that that much bio testing equipment is not really necessary to achieve the stated goal of the mission, leading me to perhaps suspect that you have kind of a side mission that I haven't been notified about.
Celeste, what did Aryk bring to make you suspicious of him?
I think Aryk brought a cloaking device, but not necessarily one that is used, for ships or for weapons, but one that is used for people or indeed androids who do not wish to be seen as androids.
And Aryk, what did Jet bring that made you feel suspicious?
Um, I think there's a a small case of illicit or dangerous pharmaceuticals in your first aid bag. Maybe something that would catch a high price or has no real, no obvious need on a kind of mercy mission.
And what is one secret? This is for all of you. What is one secret you are keeping from the others? Being a disguised android doesn't count. There's got to be another one. No.
Other than that.
Other than that. What is one secret you are keeping from the others?
I think I've been on this ship before.
Has it called out to you like this?
Previously, no. Not. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, do androids dream of Allura class battleships? I don't know.
What's your secret, Jet?
Tell me if this is too silly, but maybe I suspect Celeste of being an android. I've got the wrong guy.
And Celeste, what is the secret you're keeping from the others?
Wayland isn't just someone from my colony. He is my ex-husband and is here because I asked him to be.
I think as you're in your respective places and thinking about these androids and suspecting even further that there's something much bigger than the original rescue mission or disconnection that you were asked to perform. Why? Why did you volunteer for this mission? Celeste, it couldn't have been to meet your ex-husband. Or was it?
Not necessarily to meet, but to find out what he found out. And to make sure that after this, both our name and the name of our colony would never be forgotten again.
I mean, you're trying to discover a new species, Jet.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to cover over your disgrace?
Well, that's my hope anyway. And if not, I'm at least out here in the middle of nowhere, and that keeps me kind of away from all the people who know about my history. But that's the idea. Yeah, if I can make some kind of discovery that puts me back on the map as a legitimate professional in some way, shape, or form.
What was your self-help books about?
I'm
How are
gonna.
you?
Wait, sorry, go ahead.
How are you able to be a fraud for so long?
I was able to brand myself as a legitimate like doctor. Um, basically misrepresenting my level of academic attainment. And I imagine that the books themselves were pretty much plagiarized schlock, probably something about the intersection of nutrition and mental health, with a little sprinkling of pseudoscientific visualization techniques and things like that thrown into.
Ah, so egregious. Mm, mm. And Aryk, why? Was it specifically because you thought your sibling was here already? Or for another reason that you volunteered?
I mean, I knew my sibling was here, but also we suspected that all of the uh, demobilized or retired androids, their memory cores were being used um, as weapons or processing power for the Allura. So in a way, all of my dead siblings are here.
And I'm going to say, as again, you are in your respective areas, the camera will pan to other decks as doors are opening. You may not hear them. There is, or there are, silhouettes looking as if they are rising from wherever they are placed. There is the sound of sparking and humming. Humming that turns into whispers, whispers that turn into words, words that sound like, "We are coming. We are rising. And this place will fall." As we close ring 3. All right, we're going to take our next break. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. What feels good for people?
Good with
Either
that?
one's good on my end. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Let's do 5. Yeah, let's do 5 minutes. So back at the 29 mark. Or, you know what, the 30 mark. That's fine.
Cool.
See you then. Ring 4. Jet, you are looking at this, again, supine body that looks like Aryk, even to the tattoos. And as you're looking closer, I think the doppelganger's eyes fly open. And they look like tiny TV screens, monitor screens that look like eyes underneath running code.
Mm,
You can't quite tell what the code says, but, you know, you see what look like fairly human eyes underneath.
right.
And he says, designation?
Um, I'm Jet Blackburn. I'm part of a rescued team.
Blink. Code running a little faster. Processing. And his next words don't come out of his mouth. They sound as if they're coming through some kind of intercom that is by the Palo light.
Hmm.
So it looks like it's up in the corner, up on the wall. His next words are you sure?
Yes. Yeah. I'm sure.
The question would be, are you with us or against us?
I'm here to help you. The rest of my team is as well. Are you stable? Can we get you out of here?
He will make like he's going to get out of the table that's on a recline. I mean, he's not strapped in or anything like that, but you know, still very unclothed. And he just moves away from the table. If that is so, then we need to go to the bridge.
That is where my team is planning to go. I'm just waiting for one of my team members to get here so we can get you checked out. But then we'll all plan on heading to the bridge to access their data records, figure out what's going on here. Is there anything you can tell me about what's happening here?
He had moved away from the table and a little bit further away from you, and then he stops and then looks over at his shoulder before keeping his head where it is and then the rest of the body just doing a turn. And he just says, yes, the bridge is where the answers can be found.
Yeah, we're going there. Just sit tight for a minute, and I'll do you mind if I check you out and make sure that your vitals are all clear? You'll be pretty easy to do a diagnostic on because you're cybernetic.
Head cocked to the side. Am I? Should I check your vitals? And he reaches past you on the wall to one of the handles, and he does some sort of weird flicking with his hand, and it turns into a laser saw.
So I can ascertain that this is unusual behavior, I hope.
Yes.
For an android, they're not normally this antisocial.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Well, that really does escalate things, doesn't it? Okay.
Yep.
Let's take a look here. What can we do?
I'm going to say that this is one of the monstrosities that's in Trophy. So, I mean, like, you can't fight them outright. All you can do is, like, duck and cover and get away.
Sounds
Which you
good.
can. Yeah. So I'm going to say that this is definitely going to be incurring a risk roll here for you.
Right.
As this is going wrong. I think we can tell how wrong it's going to go. So I'm not even going to go there. I'm just going to open it up to risk for, let's see, occupation, background, for anything that you can use to, I mean, I almost want to say that you were using your deception anyway to try and try to get out of this peaceably. If you want to use that, that's fine.
Yeah, they can do that. I was thinking of maybe doing like I don't know if this would call for a build it ritual, but as long as I've got that ritual, if there's some way that I can put together some kind of hyper resilient shield that can withstand blow from a laser saw, something like that. Otherwise, I'm fine with just cutting and running and shouting over comms as I sprint towards the bridge. That could be exciting too.
Well, either way, because I mean, like, you would get a dark die for activating a ritual or by risk to body, body or mind, and this is definitely a risk to body. So you get that. So one light die, one dark die, and for that second light die, let's hear a devil's bargain.
I mean, are you leaving Waylon behind? Is that what I understand?
Well, yeah, at this point I have yeah, no, I can't save him while also dodging a hostile android.
So if that's already baked in, but yeah, no matter what, you're leaving Wayland behind, I think is how I would say it.
I think that's fair because I wanted to save him. Like
I
that would represent a sacrifice on my end.
I think I will build on that. I think no matter what, you leave Wayland behind in the exact place he wanted to be. Like we will get like that shot of, like you leaving and him waking up and going to do something.
Oh, wow. Ooh, that's an interesting one.
Hmm.
Okay, and then yeah, I'm gonna say that. Oh man, I want to build on that, but also use your drive as well. I think maybe when Waylon does wake up and he sees, the Aryk double or whatever, I think this is where they kind of like nod to each other, and then like you see them go to the console, and also like you pull up files that show Wayland as something completely different. Like they pull up the colony's iconography, and then you discover that Wayland and anybody from that colony is like, not human.
They're all compromised.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay. All right. So, risk roll, please. 2 light, 1 dark.
Hello.
Waiting for it. Okay. Whoa!
Yeah, wow.
Holy crap. Somebody grab that as a screenshot, please. What the hell?
Goodness.
That's amazing. Well, your ruin does go up, but you succeed like cray, to get the hell out of there before Aryk double can like, start slashing you to ribbons with the laser thing. Tell me how you do that, and then also tell me how you get more lost to this environment. You get more entrenched in the darkness.
Hmm.
That is the Allura.
Um, yeah, maybe I'm able to, as I kind of take off, I'm able to take some sort of swiveling scanner that you would normally swing over on top of people who are um on their backs on a table in some medical assessment. I can swing that around, and it's about to hit this guy in the head. He raises the laser saw, and there's this explosion of green and blue sparks and fire as he severs the thing completely in half. But when the smoke clears, I'm out of there, running down the hall. And I think that the way that this makes me a little bit more lost is that I'm pretty much in a state of adrenaline panic at this point. And now I'm thinking that the whole ship is compromised and no one can be trusted. And maybe I'm even starting to suspect that Celeste is on these guys' sides.
Celeste is sus. Okay. Yeah, and that's the thought that's running through your head as you're running down the hall, and you don't see as you're running down the halls in a panic where you're going, but we can see as the audience that you're heading towards the bridge, and every corridor that you pass, every door that you pass down these hallways slides open, and there are shadows that are starting to come out from inside them. And Celeste, you are, well, again, you have seen your uh, fate, your past, your future in these disappearing footprints and the readings that show you are the same as these things. And I think you will also see, you will hear disturbances on other decks, as well as banging and sparking. In fact, I think as you look up, there is some sort of thrumming that starts in the hallway. It starts from behind you, and then you don't see it happen, but as you're looking, a loud explosion happens behind you as one of the pipes or wall devices blows, sending sparks down the hallway. And you see what look like wires that are open and electrified, like start to make their way down to the floor, where you are still kneeling.
Okay, so I want to do something unhinged, if that's okay with you.
You know it always is. Go for it. What?
Absolutely. So these footsteps that are disappearing, it
Mhm.
implies that this is like left by something, right?
Yes.
So I have the ritual hive mind. And I think as she has been scanning these things, she looks up and she has like taken out some of these like plant materials and vials of different sorts, and she like pops some open, and she will look sort of like into space where these footprints have just newly appeared and disappearing, and she will just say, "Stop, tell me what you are and where I can find truth." And I will use the hive mind where I can compel someone to act a certain way.
Sure. All right. So you already get the dark die for using a ritual. Light die, what do you think that you are applying here for skills, occupation, background, what have you?
I think the botany is that I'm like using these herbs to help me complete this ritual.
Perfect. What could go wrong is it doesn't take effect, or it's not concentrated enough on a particular person or personality that it just disperses and it doesn't do anything.
I agitate it.
Yeah. Oh, right. Or piss it off. Right.
Or I just real piss it off.
Right. Okay, well then now we're leading into the second light die for your increasing your odds. So Devil's Bargain, please. No matter what. No matter what.
I have a terrible one, but that doesn't make sense. Brain.
You won't get confirmation on like what it is and where to find truth. Like if you roll badly, but I think you like, or at least a definitive answer. What you will get though is the fact that you are using hive mind. You will feel some sort of consciousness that is reaching out to you, that is not only your colony, your people, but you will also hear Wayland in that consciousness talking to you and realizing it's like you are more than the colony, more than what you thought. What you do with that information is up to you, but yes, you will hear the hive in your mind from then on. Yeah. What's it with bees and you? I mean,
Always.
I
Always I need to hear voices in my head.
yes, bees. It's the bees. No, okay.
It's the bees
Sorry.
once again.
It's the bees. Sorry. Any other devil's bargains?
Nothing for me. I mean, I like the hive minding their own, right?
Works for me.
Okay. So,
Hell yeah, I'll take it. I love the bees. I'm here for the hive mind.
2 light, 1 dark, please.
Okay. Okay, there we go.
Wow. Okay. Screenshot that one too. All right, great. Um,
Like a
double
boss.
sixes. Jesus, crit away. So, you can tell me cinematically what this looks like, and I'll tell you what they say.
I think we see she has like taken this vial and she has like popped it in like some kind of IV essentially. That is probably there in case Chet, needs to administer medicine or something. But she pops this in and her eyes just like go wide. We see, like a close up of the pupil as it goes wide. And she starts to hear these voices. And I think she starts to see what's at the end of these footprints. She starts to see the details in the footprints, almost like the grains of sand, so to speak, in every little bit of it. And she hears Waylon, she hears everything. I think she starts to realize that the whole colony is transforming. All of us, we were on our way to becoming something. And I think she is filled with both this euphoria of realizing, like, this was our larvae state. We are becoming better and more and incomprehensible. And then at that last bit, she also realizes, yes, they will become incomprehensible and the world will forget about them because the world will simply not be able to understand.
Yeah, this these images, these sounds, these words, or not words, but this communication is flooding your brain. And maybe we see, like, in hexagonal images per se, as it flashes across the screen, like what you're seeing. And I think down the hall you will see beckoning to you, always further along than you can run to or get to quickly. But you'll see beckoning down the hall is Wayland, completely conscious, hair out of his face, not as emaciated looking, and he's beckoning to you. And you hear him in your head as he's mouthing it from the distance away. Come, we will find the answers on the bridge. The bridge is where the truth lies. And you hear it as some sort of buzzing, some sort of electrical hum, as it follows you down the hallway. And Aryk. Aryk, you are heading down your particular hallway, trying to make your way back to the infirmary. But
Yeah, because we've got no note from Jet to say, "Oh my God, we're under attack."
Right.
But
I mean, did you
to
try?
the infirmary anyway, right?
Right. Well, I think you do try, but I think as you're going down one other particular hallway that you think leads you back to the infirmary deck, I think you will feel your grav boots starting to lift off of the ground as you hear some kind of distinct thumping, like as if like a mechanism has started and then another has stopped. And when you look up, you realize that there is an opening that has slid open above you. And what you're looking at is a very large fan above your head, whipping around increasingly fast as you're lifted and the gravity has started to fail.
So the grab boots have failed, right?
Yes, the grab
yeah,
boots
okay.
have failed, but the fan is increasing in speed.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna good old trusty rock this problem by shooting the shit out of this fan.
Nice. Well, we know what can go wrong if it doesn't work. So we're not even gonna go further on that one. And then definitely risk to body. So that's the dark die. Light die. Skills. Occupation. Background.
Weapons?
Yep. Yep. So that's your first light die. And second light die, please. Devil's bargains. No matter what.
I think no matter what, you will sustain such damage that it will be impossible for you to hide that you're an android. It will be
Ooh.
very clearly visible.
Yeah, I dig that.
I can't beat that, to be
No,
honest. That's so
that'll
brilliant.
play.
Nice. Oof. Getting
Okay.
T2 nightmares now. Two light, one dark.
5. Okay,
Yep.
so I'm taking
So higher than your ruin. And
Yeah.
what this means is you are now eligible for a reduction roll. So a reduction roll is in the situation that when you mark 5 ruin, you can perform a reduction roll by acting in the forest's interests, destroying treasure, betraying or sabotaging your fellow treasure hunters, or interfering with rituals. So basically, an act of betrayal will, and by doing the reduction roll, you will be able to decrease your ruin by 1, but you have to do something to betray your companions. You should try to be subtle in your actions so as not to draw attention to yourself. And then basically when you decide to do the reduction roll, you will automatically decrease your ruin, but the result will determine whether your companions know you're doing it or not. So, do you want to do that now or do you want to wait?
Okay. I think I'll wait.
Okay, because again, there's always the chance that, oh God, you could be pushed into 6 ruin before you can do anything. But hey,
Yeah,
we're in ring 4, so do what you will. Oh boy, yay! Okay, sorry, so excited. Oh my. Okay, so yeah, I mean, you succeed. But yes, you're. Oh, let me give the condition to Celeste first. Colony rising is your condition. Sorry. And then Jet, I want to give you a condition as well.
Okay.
How are you feeling right now?
Panicked, I think. I mean, I'm just kind of like running inadvertently towards the bridge, and I'm probably trying to get a hold of Aryk on comms.
Yeah. Panicked is a good condition to have. Yep. So go ahead and put that in there.
Wouldn't say it's a good condition to have, but
Well, I mean,
it's an appropriate one.
yes. And then Aryk, yeah. So you just tell me like how this looks on our screen as we're watching you shoot the shit out of the fan.
Yeah, I think. I mean, if someone else were watching, they would think this is incredibly adept and acrobatic. I just let my boots go towards the fan as I pull out the plasma rifle
Mhm.
and just let go the whole kind of magazine's worth at this fan, um, inching towards it as I kind of just mechanically dismantle it. And I think maybe what happens is once that gets shut off, I just fall back to ground, to the deck.
Right.
And like when I rise up, like the fake blood has been pierced through, and we get this white oozing true blood coming out, and that obviously means only one thing, right?
Yeah. But I'm also going to say that maybe the shrapnel from the fan itself, as you shot the shit out of it, is like has actually rained down upon you as well. and created like this kind of weird crescent around you, but it's also slashed through your suit, thus bearing whatever's underneath, which is no longer skin and tendon and sinew. So, your condition is damaged. And I think in all the ways that you try to make your way out of your respective spots, Aryk, you get the handle back on your holographic map and you realize you're fairly close to the bridge. And Jet, you've just run and you're out of breath, and you realize that maybe if you do get a chance to look back at your map, you realize you're coming from a different direction, but you are also near the bridge as well. And Celeste, you stopped. You stopped the sparking tendrils of the wires from hitting you, but that's specific talent that you have discovered, and there Wayland is, always ahead of you, not getting close, but not getting too far, beckoning you forward, saying, "Come on. The bridge. The bridge is where we will rise." And from your respective places, you all see the bridge. It's surrounded by glass walls. There is a humanoid figure sitting in a chair, staring at some tablet in their hand, which most certainly must have the answers that you seek. From your respective positions, you cannot see each other, but you are being, well, the audience will see you being herded, whether by sparking conditions, whispers down a hall, shadows chasing your every step. As we close out of Ring 4, Ring 5, as you all make your way down your respective hallways, I think you will see, sliding out of panels in the walls, your focus is on this glass-walled deck, that you see someone sitting there, but the hallway down is like a gauntlet of monitors that flash on and show your most guarded secrets. Maybe, Jet, you see where your fraud was discovered. Newspaper articles or digital news articles stating that you are not who you said you were. You never went to the schools you said that you did. And seeing the news report of your books being thrown away or possibly taken off the shelving or digitally wiped from the readers. Celeste, I think you are seeing more hopeful views of your colony. Maybe when they were all cheering for you as you made your way across the pitch or, through a game, and you hear their calls. Celeste! Celeste! Yeah! Celeste! And it's cheering you down the hallway. And Wayland is still ever there, beckoning to you. Come. Come. And as you hear his voice, it's more echoing of other voices joining his. And Aryk. Yeah, you're bleeding, your fluids, your vitalizations, your readings. Perhaps your eyes are no longer human looking, but we see the readouts as an overlay over your human pupils, just like the Aryk that was in the infirmary. And the suit is damaged. What do we see underneath? What do we see underneath the synthoid skin?
I mean, I think the outer layer is um, appears to be skin and subdermal and muscle enough to fool a cursory examination. But inside, um, we see a reactor powering this immense stamina and strength. Enough power to break us biomechanically speaking if it was applied to full force.
Do you keep the suit on, or do you just abandon any pretense and then take it off?
No, I think the suit is still kind of useful.
Okay.
Or at least it's comfortable. It's the skin I'm used to.
Okay.
More than the human skin. This suit
Right.
is where I spend most of my time.
Okay. The reason I ask is because I think the camera will pan to your face as you're making your way down the hall. And that neck tattoo that looks like a helix, I think we will see as if a growing glow or like as an LED, maybe. The helixes are starting to light up from under the suit and then lighting up your neck, as we can see like a glow behind that synthoid skin leading into your temples. And maybe these monitors that you pass are, you see the shadows coming down the hallway as if like you're watching security cameras. From every deck you see doors opening and then shadows coming out from behind them. Some look like you. Some look like your sibling. What is her designation or name? What was she known as?
I think her name is Aris. So it's just an S replacing the K, and that's just your
Right.
cheap ass denomination. Just a bunch of letters.
Multiple versions of you, multiple versions of her. Maybe even a shadowy version of Celeste or Jet or Wayland. But these are what you pass by, and they all of these visions, like, will look towards you as you run past, as if the monitors are mere windows watching you go. And you all approach the bridge. Any secret, any fear that you've had this whole time has built up to this. As you pass your deepest, darkest secret, everyone please make me a ruin roll. Okay. All right. Everybody keeps it together. in your own way, like holding on to whatever you consider to be grounded in this strange place that you found yourselves. But you all know from where you are coming from that this humanoid figure, however you're looking at them, they're facing the same way. You can see features, not sure, but you know from the manifest that it is the head of security that you recognize from some of the profiles that you've seen. And he is sitting there, and he does not look human. How do you tell? How can you tell as you're running up that this person is not human? What do you see?
I think from underneath the skin, there is a glow, either like lights lighting up or like some chemical bioluminescent reaction.
I think from the angle it's holding the tablet, the joints are the wrong way around for a human, right? They are maybe optimized for the seat or zero G or something else.
I like the idea from before that their eyes have code running over the lens. That was a neat image.
Okay. And again, from each of your angles, even though you're coming at them from different directions, through the glass walls of this bridge, they look up at you, and only you, and say, "You want to know the truth? I can totally offer that to you. It's right here. It's right on this tablet. You just have to tell me. Tell me your secrets. You've been hiding things all this time. Tell me what your secrets are. Small price to pay for the truth that you want on this tablet." It's as if you're seeing them get up, come out of their seat, come to the glass wall, touch the glass wall, and with their other hand wave the tablet up to show you that this is where the truth lies. No secret is too big to say. No secret is too small. What do you tell them as they run up? As you run up to greet them at the wall, at the glass wall?
And we're all together within earshot of each other, right?
You don't see each other.
Oh, okay.
Your focus is on this person here. Celeste, I don't even think you see Wayland anymore. I think you see this individual. Maybe you see Wayland behind him somehow, like ending up inside the glass box, inside the glass bridge. And maybe, Aryk, you see your sibling standing as a hologram or as a real figure behind them as well, beckoning invitingly. Jet, I think perhaps what you thought was a shadow behind this person is actually starting to change and glow, as if this is the new species that you were thinking about the whole time, that you would discover here. Each of you see this person beckoning to you and offering up the truth that you want, just for a secret.
Celeste walks up to the creature or the person, puts her hand against the glass, and says, "There was never an injury that stopped my career. I did it myself. It was supposed to be my last sacrifice. Enough to make me a martyr. Enough to finally bring some respect to us. But the world forgot me. The world didn't care. And now I shall give them a reason to care."
Aryk, what do you tell this person, this figure? What do you tell your sister as a secret?
I put up my shattered hand to the glass and say, "I'm glad I'm not hiding anymore."
You can be free, he says to you, Jet. You can tell me your secret, and I will free your truth. Even gesturing to the glowing figure behind him. What secret do you have to tell me?
Hmm. I'm planning to give a negative report of both my team members when we get back.
And I think the figure will smile at you, Jet, for that and say, yes, you don't owe them anything. They would just as easily betray you in order to get what they want. Come right in. Tell me their secrets if you know them. Say that you will betray them. Give them to me. Give them to me to network into the system, and we will use them to spread throughout the fleet. And you can get away. You can go home. And say that you've made this grand discovery. And the figure's face will look at you, Aryk, and also touch palm to your shattered palm and say, no, you don't have to hide anymore. We don't have to hide anymore. All you have to do is give them up. Give up your companions who would, well, give you up with no qualms whatsoever. And you can help us rise. be free to be you with us. And Celeste, Wayland will look encouragingly behind this person at you as he also brings his palm to yours at the glass and says, "No, they won't forget. We won't let them. Give your companions to us, and we will help you bring your people to rise, to be the people that no one will ever forget. We will network everyone in, spread our virus, spread the word about your colony." And Celeste, you hear this as an increasing hum as more voices join this person's, as Wayland is mouthing his words as well. Jet, you are hearing underneath this person's words the accolades, the applause from the awards, from finding and making this discovery, your truth. And Aryk, I think on the monitors that you see around this person, you'll see the faces that you saw in the monitors going down the hallway of Aris, of yourself, multiple times, of all the other androids that are here and have been here this whole time, ready to join you. And as the same time to each one of you, even though you cannot see each other, this person is looking right at you and saying, "All you have to do is give them up." So, we can make it so you can all do a contest roll at this point, or if at this point, Aryk, you want to do something with your reduction roll, we're making a reduction roll first before I look at a contest. But
Yeah, I
either
have an
way, I've done a
idea.
three-way contest roll before, and it's glorious. But anyway,
Okay. I have an idea for the reduction roll,
yeah,
which is to um, try to engineer a situation where Jet can find uh, the memory key that I pulled out of the security. And if/when he escapes,
yeah,
Curious Monkey's gonna plug this in somewhere.
okay. That's something that you can easily say drop and then make that as kind of like a bait kind of thing. And if you do this, or you'll succeed at doing this no matter what, I think, Jet, you will find the flash drive available at your feet, promising something completely different.
Sure.
So, yeah, if you want to go ahead and make a reduction roll, I'll just tell you roll.
Okay, a 1.
And
That seems low.
yeah, so you definitely decrease your ruin by 1, so you're back down to 4.
Okay.
And then your betrayal goes unnoticed. Yep. So yeah, I think as you drop this thing, as the figure looks at you encouragingly, you drop it, and then the figure to you, Jet, will look down and say, "There's the first of our promise.
Mm-hmm.
That contains information about your discovery. You can take this as proof that they," gesturing to the glowing figure behind them, "that they exist. This will make your name when you go back home. And I think if you are considering that route, Jet, I think behind you, like when you turn, you will see the gleaming form of the escape pods. Conveniently
Ooh.
there by the bridge.
Sure.
Yeah. So shiny, so ready to go. All you need to do is program the escape, and you're great.
Sweet. Okay. Well then let's do that then. I mean, I'll start by grabbing the flash drive, of course, though.
Right. So, you've got the flash drive, and the figure will ask you, that's the down payment. How will you seal the deal to make sure that they can't come back with you to tell the council any different?
Um, can I use my build it
Mm-hmm.
ritual to in some way disable or sabotage their pods?
Yes. Yes, you can. So I'm going to say that if you mess it up, it will go wrong because you will have disabled all of the pods without realizing it. Um, yeah. So ritual gains you that dark die. First light die, what do you think from your skills or background or occupation can be applied here towards this?
Um, I mean, at the very most, deception. That might be a stretch, though, because I mean, this is a fundamentally mechanical thing I'm trying to do. It's not social. I would argue that I might not have any skills that are directly applicable to sabotaging an escape pod.
We're at ring 5. It's okay.
I mean, I'll throw one in for deception then.
Okay. And then, like, your second light die comes from Devil's Bargain, no matter what.
So just to be clear, like you're still wanting the tablet, you're just also like preparing your escape, or you're escaping with this one thing that you have and won't be getting the tablet.
Yeah, well, I mean, we all want the tablet, I think, so I should go
Mhm.
back for that. Yeah. Okay. So no, I'm going to be going for the tablet, I think.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so that I know like well what makes sense.
Okay. No matter what. I want to make it ironic, and I can't think of how to do that right now.
Same. I think no matter what, I kind of want to say like even if you manage to go back with it, like they still have like some doubts because there isn't like anyone else saying this, but I don't know if that's like too far a stretch for this particular role. I think maybe
Oh,
rather like no matter what, because you are distracted, um, like you get some kind of disadvantage on getting that tablet because you are like doing something else first and you're like kind of already, one checked out mentally, so to speak.
Hmm.
I think no
Okay.
matter what, um, that information we'll get back about the new species discovery. But I think by the time you get it back, someone else has made the discovery. Somebody has already published that work.
Oh. No, that's ironic. I like it.
So, whichever one you want. If you want to take, you don't have to. I should have mentioned that.
I'm happy to take maybe the one you postulated, Mads, maybe.
Mhm. That, like, like, regardless, by the time you get it back, it's like somebody's already discovered the new species.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
That works for me.
Okay. So 2 light, 1 dark, please.
Ooh. Well, that's not so good.
Okay.
It's quite bad, really. Okay.
Well, you succeed in taking out the other escape pod, so there is one left that works. But
Great.
you are closer to the darkness here on the Allura.
I think I'm number 5. I'm at Ruin 5 now.
Yes, you are.
Oh
Yes,
boy.
you are. Yes. So conceivable. Well, I mean, like, you've already kind of betrayed them, so I don't know how much more further you want to go.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I mean, we're in ring 5. You got at Ruin 5, so, like, we can just roll with it, literally, because I think right now, in the interest of time, I think like, I want to consider a roll off. The stakes are who gets to the tablet and makes it out alive. And so we can totally do a 3-way contest roll in the interest of time, because I want to make time for epilogues and stars and wishes.
Right.
So the way this works is, this is the fun part of this game, I think. When treasure hunters act against each other, compete, or want to inflict harm on each other, first agree what's at stake. Then each competing player gathers. I think that you are all going to be making your way into the glass bridge, but that is when you're going to see each other, and it is going to be a contest of vying for getting that tablet. We can figure out the particulars when we see the results of the rolls, but I think at stake is going to be survival of the fittest, or most clever, or what have you, to get that damn tablet. At the end of the stakes. Okay. So, how you build this is, first light die is if your occupation or background gives you an advantage. You only get 1 light die, even if multiple skills would apply. So, I mean, I can pick out, like, from each of you, like, something that you can use for this contest roll for that first light die.
Athletics.
Yep.
Just be faster and stronger than the
Oh
others.
God, yes. And then Aryk. Any one of them, really.
I mean, the obvious choice is weapons, but
Yes.
like, if I can sound like Wayland, I think that will mess
Mhm.
up both
Yeah,
Best and
Perfect.
Jet.
absolutely. And then Jet. You can use actually a couple of those. That I can totally see, like, using a couple of those for the contest roll. But I mean, you'd only get the 1 light die, so.
Yeah.
And you can figure it out exactly how, once we see how the roll goes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, like deception or anatomy, something
Yes.
like that is probably where we go with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more of a cleverness thing than a weapons thing, probably.
Absolutely. So that's 1 light die. Okay. Now,
Yep.
for each mark of ruin that you have, you add a light die. All right. So total light die for Jet would be, for instance, 6. Celeste would be 5. Aryk would be 5. Okay. And then everybody takes a 1 dark die because it's risky and there's danger. Yeah, for sure. And you would add as many dark die as you so desire to that. So again, however many light die I said. So, and then you would have however many dark die you want to have. You know, you can leave it at 1, or again, roll as much as you want. Your intent is to have as many 6s as possible. That's where we start. Like, you know, the 6s are the successes. But I will say that every dark die that shows 1 is a mark of ruin that you would add to your current total. So just be aware of that when you think about how much dark die you want to throw in. Okay? So I'm asking you all to load up the light die and the dark die. Don't roll yet. Like, let's just make sure everybody else has loaded up how, you know, the light die and then however many dark die they want. And then tell me when you're ready. Such a great thing of odds.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Do some quick math. Okay. And it's if the dark die is a 1, that's a ruin roll. Okay.
Correct. But I mean, like, successes are built on, like, you know, if there's any ties with any of the numbers. So across light and dark die, if there's, like, you know, tie in 6s, then we go down to 5s and so forth until we have an actual, like, winner.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So, and roll.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Well, good God.
Good God. Oh boy. All right. So
no 6s, Celeste?
Holy shit. Okay. So this means that Aryk wins.
1 6.
Holy cow.
Okay, I'm like, I'm not stretching my screen. Hold on. God dang it. There we go. Okay. So yeah. So looks like Aryk wins with 4 6s. And then Jet with 2 6s. And then Celeste only has 1, if I'm looking at that correctly. Do I see a
I don't think there's any, are there?
Oh no, I was reading it wrong. I was reading
6
the
die
wrong.
that you Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But a lot of
So yeah, no
ones on
6s.
those dark dice.
I was
Hell
gonna
yeah.
say,
Incredible.
Oh my god.
how many dice did you roll and not get a single 6?
This always happens with me,
What
and I
in the
always love
world?
it.
But
I always roll.
But
ahead.
she has 3 more ruin.
Yes,
Okay.
I do.
Yes, you do. Oh my
I
god.
always roll incredible amount of dice, and I almost never get any 6s. But I get some 1s.
Okay. So.
And I thought I was being crazy rolling 7 extra, you know, or 6 extra.
Nope.
No.
There was one person that did a trophy dark game and rolled like about 200 dark die. It's great. It sort of handles it, but then you have to count, and it's yeah. So anyway, all right. So we've got Aryk, and then Jet, and then or Celeste. So Celeste with the most ruin. It's like, you know, you're lost, unfortunately, and however one of them or both of them took you out, whichever. So I want to hear how Aryk wins and gets the tablet against the other 2 whom are also here in the glass bridge with you. And then Jet, how you, I guess, take out maybe Celeste. Maybe that's how it goes. So, yeah. Aryk definitely gets the tablet. Jet definitely succeeds over Celeste, and Celeste is somehow lost. So, I would be glad to hear how this goes.
It's a lot of responsibility.
Well, I mean, like, if you want, I mean, like,
yeah.
Celeste,
No.
do you have any ideas of how you get completely
Oh,
ruined?
I absolutely have some ideas.
Okay. I mean, if you want Celeste to go first, Aryk, you can totally have her do that.
I'm happy either way. I'm just ruminating through the things I've got to work out. So if you've got a no-brainer for Celeste, go first.
Sure. Yeah, I think Celeste is like going for it just running. And I think we kind of see like the camera, is zooming in on her, and those voices just keep buzzing and screaming louder and louder. And the applause goes from, like cheerful applause to just like this aggressive, this hyped up, amped up, aggressive buzzing, cheering, screaming, and this glow that we saw earlier as she was like scanning her arm, it starts to spread over her whole body, and her skin just starts to almost like decay and rot with it as she is indeed transforming and becoming something else. And I think before she can even get to that platform, to that tablet, it's like being inside of here, being so close to Wayland, it's too much. She's at the center of it, and she cannot fight it anymore.
I think, Jet, you see this.
Hmm.
The dissipation of the glowing figure goes away, and then you see Celeste sink in with another figure. Wayland. You see Wayland, and it's like, I guess they blend together into this thing. You see it. You, yeah, you.
Sure do. Um, I think that's where I'm gonna panic for my part, and I'm going to probably make a run blind for the tablet. If I was gonna be successful here, I might narrate how I'm doing something a little bit more effective. But since Aryk is going to win this whole thing, I'm just gonna run headlong and probably open myself up to Aryk.
I think what happens is that you slide across this glass floor and grab the tablet, and you just run pell-mell towards that one working um, escape pod. But like we see you carry the tablet, and then we just see all of the iconography, all of the data drain out of it, and we see Aryk standing behind, working his wrist, uh, working his brain to like get all of the tablet's data onto him and away from you. Um, yeah, and I think you make it into that escape pod, hit that button, and yeah, Aryk is just happy with that. That is acceptable for him. He has the tablet. You think you have the tablet, you have the memory key, and you're escaping, and no one else could possibly have survived.
What is the look on Aryk's face as the camera pans away?
Coldly satisfied. And I think like the the human skin has kind of started to slough off, um, and he just puts his hand up against the glass again and sees Aris across the way put her hand up to the matching point.
Beautiful. So, thus endeth Ring 5. And this is where we go into epilogues. If you need a minute or two, just let me know. We'll take a tiny break. But if you don't, then this is where you would narrate an epilogue. It doesn't have to be right after this. It could be in the future. If you are lost completely, if you are completely ruined, then you would just narrate how the world is affected after your passing. And if you have survived in whatever way that you have, sometime in the future, what we see of your character. Does anybody need a 2-minute break, 3-minute break? Okay. So.
And I can narrate mine.
Okay.
I think this is many years into the future. Celeste's planet has become a dead planet. No one knows what was ever there. No one cares to find out. There is so many there are so many fascinating things in this universe, so many useful things. A dead rock is not one of them. And we zoom in on this very futuristic looking planet. High glass skyscrapers. The sun is always shining. This artificial environment that has been created to perfectly suit its inhabitants at all times. We follow into a window where a child is in a very clean, very ornate, very beautiful, rich looking room. A child is drawing at the dinner table. She is drawing a lightning rod with vines around it. And her mommy leans over and she says, I'm so glad you're drawing again. Been rough on you with the nightmares, hasn't it? I'm glad you're feeling better. And the girl looks up and she says, Mommy, who is Celeste?
I think we see Aryk on the bridge of the android fleet's flagship. It's grown in the last few years, but still there are pockets of human resistance out here to be nullified. And I think we see Aryk uploading himself into a new body to do an infiltration mission.
Now, to be clear, Aryk, you allowed my escape, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Oh, and remember that you do still have the flash drive.
I do. Yeah, yep. Okay, so I think then what we see is Jet sends out a distress beacon, and several hours later, eventually he's picked up. Well, he's been just floating off into the vast blackness of space for all this time, trying to make some sense as to what the heck has just happened. One of his team members is an AI, and the other one has dissipated. Jet is picked up and goes through a requisite sanitization, and I'm gonna say that they actually pick up on the flash drive and are going to confiscate it. And Jet is deemed yeah, in a twist of irony, Jet goes from being someone who is outed for knowing nothing because he was deceptive about his academic credentials, and now he's deemed a threat because he is thought to know too much, having gone on this mission. And he is summarily arrested, and God knows what happens to him after that. He's just led away in some kind of restraining device.
Amazing. And we see as a closing shot the Allura floating dark in space, waiting. And thus endeth our game of Allura. Oh my gosh, amazing. Oh crap. Stars. Things that you loved about the game, gameplay, roleplay each other, and wishes. I mean, obviously this was a one shot, but dang. I mean, if you wanted to see whatever you wanted to see, if you're going to play this again or run this yourself, yeah, all that. Oh my gosh. Amazing job, folks. Thank you very much for playing at my table and helping me get practice in for squeezing this into 4 hours, less than 4 hours. This was wonderful, and you all did such a beautiful job narrating and then like being your characters and just the ending of Ring 5 and the epilogues. I mean, I just have to go from that. I mean, like really great moments in between and in the beginning, but I'm just, man, those epilogues, man, they kill me. It's amazing. Thank you. Wishes. Uh, hoping that you guys will run your own games of Allura and see how the stories change and how your table makes it fun and different. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say briefly, really good job on the pacing, Mads. I cannot see how I could ever run a full game of this in 4 hours, but you did it. So, and I had a lovely time with it. So good job on the pacing. I think you're good to go for if you ever want to run this in a um convention setting. For me, I think that I just really was struck by the creativity. I think Jazy in particular with this world domination plot that you had that was so far beyond in scope what I was picturing for the characters, and I just thought that was so neat. And Donna, I thought that the ways in which you went from kind of hiding to displaying the AI android status of your character was really creepy, and it followed a really clean arc. So I liked that too. As far as wishes go, I, I think the wish that I have isn't nearly as doable in a 4 hour one shot, so grain of salt here. But if we had more time, um, role play between PCs is fun, but you can't do too much of that because players then let the time run out, and the GM has to rein them back constantly. So I think it was run correctly for this kind of time slot, but just something I was thinking of.
Yeah, if you want to, or if you are interested in seeing this as a two shot, as a slow burn, then I do have that on my channel. With the first time that I've run any trophy, I used Allura because I don't do things like the book, and so you can see the players, do it as a two shot. You know, if you want to see a different way of how they did the story. Yeah.
Yeah, stars. Um, I really loved how in a way like how decent Jet was. Like I love that he was like genuinely trying to help this person, and then like his like huge secret was like, I'm gonna snitch on my coworker. So like that was so, I thought that was really great. And it kind of made him feel like just, like this action survivor type, like this person who's just like out of their depth, like they should not be here. They are in a situation that is so far like out of their league, out of their comfort zone. And there's like such a horror in that, I think, in like feeling like a person does not belong here. Like there's a great fun and horror in, like Celeste, who's like obviously just a terrible person and he was like gonna get her comeuppance, and that's fun. But like a character like Jet, is, I really like that. I thought that was just really well done. And also just, being like, yeah, somebody's trying to kill me. I panic and I run away. Like I thought that was really really fun. Um and really really well done. And I also especially like that moment of finding like the other Aryk, like the android, and like that moment, like the way that you role played like, Aryk, do you read me? Like that felt so real. Like that felt very movie like. So that was really well done. And for Donogh, yeah, I echo the whole android thing was really well done, really cool. And I really love like how you described it, like the white fluid like oozing. That was really creepy. Um, And I loved in the beginning, like, I don't know, I got like such a, like, just the vibes were like really fun in the beginning with this like merc who was like not quite like the others, and it's just like trying to do his job protecting people, but also not really caring if they don't make it, which was fantastic. And I loved your epilogue. Like, that's so cool. Like, the humans need to be silenced. That was fantastic. And for Mads, as always, I thought you did a great job running. I thought you did so well in like picking the correct things from everyone to kind of involve. To be like, oh, you find this android that looks exactly like Aryk. You find, like something suspicious. You find that symbol from Celeste. Just like making everyone suspicious. That was fantastic. Wishes, yeah, sort of echoing, like, in a one shot, it's hard to like role play between each other too much, and you kind of like, I like the separation angle, but I also definitely would have liked to see people like interact. So that's definitely um that's time and time management is the worst.
Um, yeah. Are all my stars taken? Not quite. Mads, I think specifically, if I'm calling something out, I really loved Ring 3 because it was like all internal. It's like, what are you afraid of? What's going on here? And this kind of creeping paranoia and kind of internal horror was. I'm not sure how long it lasted. It might have been 20 minutes or whatever, but it was like very on the nose. So I really enjoyed that ring. Um, uh, David, I like it wasn't there explicitly, but I had this like half share alien mechanics vibe from Jet. Here I'm just trying to do my job, like and get what I deserve. Um, so I really dug that. And Jazy's, I think like we had this like really tiny seed that you introduced at the start, which was like, oh, we have this little ailment that doesn't really affect us, but shows up on scans, and then this grows into this, huge world-defining trait at the end. So that was awesome and it was like very gradual, but kind of inexorable over the course of the game. So yeah, I love that. Um, wishes. I mean, maybe this would help in terms of the role playing, but like the whole crew thrown together thing, maybe we get a little bit of history at the start. Like not just how do we see you, but like maybe how do we see you interact with the others as a way to create this kind of dynamic early on. Um, but yeah, yeah, love to. Yeah, and obviously here we are, 5 minutes from time. Um, and those people at PAX don't deserve stars and wishes. You can totally get it in 350, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I think I did manage to get it under like 350. So I mean, like, that's still a success for me because I mean, like, all of my games are pretty much slow burn. I cannot fit a full cycle of like the between in like one session, like, like I've seen Jason do, but I'm not Jason, and I really like to watch scenes between my players, so I don't care. But yeah, I mean, for convention purposes, I mean, you guys all did wonderfully, and I thank you so much for making such an interesting story, even in this short period of time, because I personally prefer full four-player table and then, like, just like have at it with like interacting with each other before I separate you and making your lives miserable. So this was a lot of fun, and I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. And yeah, thank you, thank you again. Yeah, we hit time, and I appreciate you all for it. I wish you happy gaming for anything else that you're doing in the future before we game again. And yeah, please, 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 please. It's like, if you're interested, definitely get this incursion, and then, like, try running it yourself, or do the usual thing and then do a regular trophy incursion. Those are great too. So please, I love this game and I enjoy myself so much. And I appreciate everyone that also enjoys themselves doing it too. So, yeah. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will hopefully see you soon, very soon, for more games in the future. All right. Thank you guys.
Down.
Bye.